Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am Lalema Aneja Dang, and with me is Renuka RS with the evening news. The headlines. 70% voting recorded in single-phase assembly elections in Kerala, over 63% in Tamil Nadu and around 78% in Puducherry. West Bengal registers 78% in the third phase of polling and Assam 79% in third and final phase. Government says India is still among the lowest in terms of COVID cases or deaths per million population globally. Centre asks its employees aged 45 years and above to get vaccinated to contain the spread of COVID-19. Government urges TV channels to generate greater awareness on the message of Dawai Bhi, Kadhai Bhi. Night curfew imposed in Delhi till the 30th of April in view of rising corona cases. Chandigarh administration also announces to enforce night curfew from tomorrow. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges BJP workers to counter false narratives on farm laws, CAA and labour laws. Prime Minister to interact with students, teachers and parents during Pariksha Pe Charcha tomorrow. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar holds talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in New Delhi. Long-standing partnership in nuclear, space and defence sectors figure prominently. And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu says Amrit Mahotsav should herald reawakening of a resurgent and Atmanirbhar India. As the number of COVID cases are on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower the guard, follow all precautions, and all those above 45 years to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Around 78% voter turnout was recorded in the third phase of assembly elections in West Bengal, while Assam recorded 79% in the third and final phase of elections today. Till 5 p.m., Kerala recorded about 70%, Tamil Nadu above 63%, and Puducherry registered around 78% voting in the single-phase assembly polls today. Today was the last phase of Assam assembly elections, while 5 phases of polling are still remained for West Bengal. The Election Commission has said the polling in these 5 states and UT passed off peacefully. As a major push for conducting free and fair elections, live monitoring and webcasting of more than 50% polling stations, including critical and vulnerable polling booths, were put in place to ensure safe and secure atmosphere in the polling areas. All the polling stations followed COVID-19 safety protocols, and for the safety of the voters and the election officials, it was ensured that the polling stations were sanitized 1 day prior to the poll. Facility of thermal scanning, hand sanitizers, face masks were also made available at the polling stations, and proper arrangements for social distancing were put in place.
In West Bengal, barring a few stray incidents, polling for the third phase was by and large peaceful in 31 assembly constituencies across 3 districts, Hooghly, Howrah and South 24 Paraganas. More from our Kolkata correspondent.
The third phase of assembly elections witnessed quite a few incidents throughout the day. In Ulubere Uttar constituency, a sector officer, 2 assistant sector officers and a sector police officer have been suspended by the ECI. 3 home guards were also removed from duty. The sector officer allegedly took 3 EVMs and 4 VVPATs to a Trinamool Congress leader's house. 3 candidates of the ruling party were allegedly heckled at Khanakul, Arambagh and Uluberia, and a total 11 persons were arrested in the incidents. A person was detained at Bishnupur for intimidating a voter. BJP candidate at Uluberia was also allegedly heckled this afternoon. Elaborate security arrangements have been made, especially in South 24 Parganas, considered to be the stronghold of the ruling party. Madhuparna Dhaudhary for AIR News, Kolkata.
In Assam, the final phase has covered 40 seats. No untoward incident has been reported. A few EVMs had to be replaced due to technical glitches. In Tamil Nadu, polling for the single-phase assembly elections went off peacefully. Polling began at 7 in the morning and will end at 7 in the evening. The voters strictly adhered to the COVID protocols while exercising their franchisee. 62.41% votes were registered in Kanyakumari parliamentary seat by polls. Our Chennai correspondent reports that considering the voting percentage registered in the last assembly elections in 2016, which was 74.8%, this election might be a little lower.
Prominent contestants include AIADMK leaders Palaniswamy, O. Pannirselvam, DMK leaders M.K. Stalin, Durai Murugan, PMK leaders G.K. Mani, BJP leaders L. Murugan, H. Raja, Vanati Srinivasan and Kushbu, M&M founder Kamal Hassan, AMMK founder TTV Dinakaran, DMDK leader Premalata Vijaykanth, who voted in their respective constituencies in the state. The Election Commission also ensured that no one is left out and focused on maximum voting. Arrangements were done in all polling booths to handle COVID cases and gloves were distributed to voters by health workers and volunteers on duty. The last hour, which was reserved for the COVID patients, went on very smoothly. With Murthy, Joy, AIR News, Chennai.
In the Union Territory of Puducherry, brisk polling started in all the 30 constituencies at 7 in the morning. There was a gradual increase in the polling and at 12:30 p.m. polling picked up. More from our Puducherry correspondent.
Puducherry former Chief Minister Narayanaswamy, NR Congress leader and Tattanjavadi candidate Rangaswamy, BJP Laspet candidate Swaminathan, Embalam Congress candidate and former Minister Kandasamy, DMK former legislator and Villiyannur candidate Siva among others exercised their franchise before 11 o'clock. COVID-19 pandemic protocol was strictly followed here. All the polling stations were well sanitized. Voters came with the face mask only allowed inside the booths and social distancing was maintained in the polling station. Thermal temperature checkup was also done. Hand sanitizers and gloves also given to the voters in the booths. As a special arrangement, the COVID patients were allowed to vote evening 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. 1,558 control units, 1,677 ballot units and 1,558 VV-pots used in this election. 6,835 polling stops, 4,811 security personnel along with 40 companies of CRPF were deployed. So far, it was a smooth election here. Chandramohan, AIR News, Puducherry.
In Kerala, amid COVID restrictions, high polling is being reported in the assembly election to 140 constituencies and in the Lok Sabha by-poll in Malappuram. More from our Thiruvananthapuram correspondent.
This time, the northern districts of Kerala, Kannur, Kozhikode and Palakkad recorded the highest voter turnout. The Nemam, Vattiyurkava, Kazhakottam, Koni, Palakkad and Manjeshwaram constituencies were a strong triangular fighter zone between the three major fronts, LDF, UDF and NDA, also recorded high polling. Polling was peaceful across the state barring some minor clashes reported at different places. In a few polling stations, voting was briefly halted due to the malfunctioning of EVMs. COVID protocol has been strictly adhered across the state. COVID patients and quarantined voters cast their votes in the final hour of polling. Prominent leaders from major political parties expressed confidence of winning the elections. Mayusha for AIR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
Government has said that India is still among the lowest in terms of COVID cases or deaths per million population globally. Briefing reporters in New Delhi today, Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan said the COVID cases per million in the country are 9,192 as compared to the world average of 16,783 cases per million. He said COVID-19 cases had grown in mid-September, after which it had continuously declined and then started climbing up from the first week of April. Mr. Bhushan said currently the number of active cases in the country are over 7,88,000. He said there are 10 districts in the country which are major contributors of active cases and out of which 7 are from Maharashtra and 1 each from Karnataka, Chhattisgarh and Delhi. The Health Secretary said Maharashtra alone accounts for nearly 58% of the total active caseload of the country and it is still a matter of concern. He said average daily new cases in Maharashtra rose to more than 44,000 as compared to an average of 3,000 daily cases in the second week of February. The average daily deaths has also gone up from 32 to 250 in Maharashtra.
250 मृत्यु प्रतिदिन हो गई हैं। मृत्यु के मामले में जब हम आपसे आज बात कर रहे हैं उस समय देश की कुल मृत्यु के 34% महाराष्ट्र में होते हैं। तो ये चिंता की बात है। 58% सभी केसेस का एक राज्य में होना और 34% सभी मृत्यु का एक राज्य में होना ये चिंता को बढ़ाता है।
Mr. Bhushan said that the centre has deployed 50 high-level multidisciplinary public health teams in Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh and Punjab. They will be going to 30 districts of Maharashtra, 11 districts of Chhattisgarh and 9 districts of Punjab. They will assist the state health departments in surveillance, control and containment measures. On the vaccination front, the Union Health Secretary informed that following all scientific rigors, more than 8 crore vaccine doses have been administered in the country in less than 80 days, which has been made possible by a close coordination between the centre and the state governments.
Administered 43 lakh doses in 24 hours, which is a record for the country. As a result, in the morning today, we have administered 8 crore 31 lakh doses. And if we look at people above 45 years, then it is 5 crore 35 lakh first doses. Similarly, if we look at healthcare workers, more than 89 lakh first doses, and frontline workers, more than 97 lakh doses. Let's see how does it compare globally.
Niti Aayog member Dr. V.K. Paul stressed on the need of following COVID-19 appropriate behavior to check the spread of the virus. He said wider people participation is vital to check the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic, saying the next 4 weeks are very critical for the country.
पैंडेमिक को कंट्रोल करने के लिए सारी ताकत से जूझना है. वही टूल्स हैं हमारे, लेकिन उन टूल्स को हमने परफेक्ट तरीके से इम्प्लीमेंट करना है. चाहे वो कोविड अप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर की बात हो, चाहे कंटेनमेंट की बात हो, चाहे टेस्टिंग की बात हो, या अस्पतालों की तैयारी की बात हो, या वैक्सीनेशन को पहुंचाने की बात. जिस एलिजिबल ग्रुप को मिलना चाहिए, जहां भी पैंडेमिक है वहां मिलेगा तो बचाव होगा, जान बचेगी.
The recovery rate is 92.48% in the country. Centre today issued order asking all its employees aged 45 years and above to get themselves vaccinated in order to effectively contain the spread of COVID-19. In its order, DOPT has advised the central government employees to continue to follow COVID-appropriate behavior even after vaccination by frequent washing of hands, wearing a mask and observing social distancing. The government has been monitoring the situation very closely and based on the strategy adopted for prioritizing the groups for vaccination to contain the spread of COVID-19. Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan today reviewed the COVID-19 situation and action being taken to address the rising cases in the country with health ministers of 11 states through video conference. These states include Maharashtra, Haryana, Delhi, Punjab, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, Gujarat and Jharkhand, which are witnessing the highest spike in the COVID cases. During the meeting, Dr. Harshvardhan attributed to the local body election big agitations and events and marriage ceremonies for the rise in the COVID cases, saying COVID containment measures were ignored on these occasions.
Information and Broadcasting Ministry has urged private TV channels to generate greater awareness on the message of Dawai Bhi, Kadai Bhi by disseminating messages for COVID-appropriate behavior and vaccination of eligible persons. The ministry today issued an advisory to all private television channels in view of the rising COVID-19 cases in the country. It has reiterated the leadership role played by the TV channels in spreading message in the public interest. The advisory also cited Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting on Sunday to review the emerging situation, where it was decided to focus on a 5-fold strategy of testing, tracing, treatment, COVID-appropriate behavior and vaccination. The Delhi government has imposed night curfew in the national capital from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. with immediate effect till 30th of April. The decision was taken in the wake of increase in COVID-19 cases. There will be no restrictions on traffic movement during night curfew. People can get vaccinated but need to have an e-pass. Owners of ration, general fruits, vegetables and medical stores will be allowed on e-pass. Print and electronic media personnel will also be allowed to move on e-pass. Private doctors, nurses and paramedical staff will remain exempted from night curfew. Passengers going to airports, railway stations and bus stations will be exempted if a valid ticket is produced. Pregnant women and patients going for treatment have also been exempted. There shall be no restriction on interstate and intrastate movement and transportation of essential and non-essential goods. No separate permission or e-pass will be required for such movements. The Delhi police will strictly enforce the order issued on night curfew in the national capital except for exempted category. Delhi Police PRO Chinmay Biswal said that city police will issue fresh movement pass for essential services and commodities on demand, and those qualifying for it can also visit Delhi Police website. In view of the imposition of night curfew in Delhi, entry in Delhi Metro from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. will be allowed only to those passengers who fall in essential category after verification of their valid IDs. Delhi Metro Rail Corporation has also advised its users who do not fall in essential category to complete journey and reach their destination by 10 p.m. The Chandigarh administration today announced to enforce night curfew from tomorrow onwards from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. The decision was taken in the War Room meeting chaired by Punjab Governor and Administrator of Union Territory Chandigarh, VP Singh Badnor, held at Chandigarh today, keeping in view the rapid increase in the number of COVID-positive cases. The Administrator has directed the police authorities to ensure strict implementation of the night curfew. According to an official spokesman, no gatherings, parties, social activities will be allowed, and restaurants will also be required to close by 10 p.m. He said that night curfew will be reviewed if situation improves. The News Services Division of All India Radio in its bilingual live phone-in program today will bring you a special discussion on COVID-19. Dr. Hemant Deshmukh, Dean, KEM of Hospital Mumbai, will participate in the discussion. This can be heard tonight on FM Gold channel and additional frequencies from 9:30 p.m. onwards. Listeners can ask questions to the experts on toll-free telephone number 1800-115767. You're listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. 70% voting recorded in single-phase assembly elections in Kerala, over 63% in Tamil Nadu and around 78% in Puducherry. West Bengal registered 78% in third phase polling and Assam 79% in third and final phase. Government says India is still among the lowest in terms of COVID cases or deaths per million population globally. Centre asks its employees aged 45 years and above to get vaccinated to contain the spread of COVID-19. Government urges TV channels to generate greater awareness on message of Dawai Bhi, Karai Bhi. Night curfew imposed in Delhi till 30th of April in view of rising corona cases. Chandigarh administration also announces night curfew from tomorrow. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges BJP workers to counter false narratives on farm laws, CAA and labour laws. Prime Minister to interact with students, teachers and parents during Pariksha Pe Charcha tomorrow. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar holds talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in New Delhi. Long-standing partnership in nuclear, space and defence sectors figure prominently. And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu says Amrit Mahotsav should herald reawakening of a resurgent and Atmanirbhar India. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said false narratives are being built, be it about farm laws, CAA or labour laws. Addressing the BJP's 41st Foundation Day today, Mr. Modi said it's a conspiracy to create political instability. The Prime Minister highlighted that sometimes they say citizenship will be snatched, sometimes it's farmers' land, but they're all blatant lies.
आज गलत नैरेटिव बनाए जाते हैं, कभी सीएए को लेकर, कभी कृषि कानूनों को लेकर, कभी लेबर लॉ को लेकर. बीजेपी के प्रत्येक कार्यकर्ता को समझना होगा कि इसके पीछे सोची समझी राजनीति है. ये एक बहुत बड़ा षड्यंत्र है. इसका मतलब है देश में राजनीतिक अस्थिरता पैदा करना. इसलिए देश में तरह तरह की अफवाहें फैलाई जाती हैं, भ्रम फैलाए जाते हैं, झूठ फैलाया जाता है. कभी कहा जाता है कि संविधान बदल दिया जाएगा, कभी कहा जाता है आरक्षण समाप्त कर दिया जाएगा, कभी कहा जाता है नागरिकता छीन ली जाएगी, कभी कहा जाता है किसानों की जमीन छीन ली जाएगी. ये सब कोरे झूठ होते हैं.
Mr. Modi called upon BJP workers to go to people and make them aware. He said that the BJP not only represents national interest but is also a party of regional aspirations, saying the party's mantra has been Vyakti se Bada Dal or Dal Se Bada Desh, the Prime Minister reiterated this tradition continues to this day. Mr. Modi said the party fulfilled Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's vision of One India by scrapping Article 370 and gave Kashmir the constitutional right. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will interact with students, teachers and parents during Pariksha Pe Charcha at 7 p.m. tomorrow. This will be the first edition of this mega event, which will be held in a virtual mode due to restrictions posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. During the Pariksha Pe Charcha program, the Prime Minister will share ideas and suggestions to prepare and appear in exams without taking any stress. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said a memorable discussion will be held with the exam warriors, parents and teachers in a new format having several interesting questions on a wide range of subjects.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, जानते हैं हम पिछले 1 साल से कोरोना के बीच जी रहे हैं और उसके कारण आप लोगों से मिलने का मोह इस बार छोड़ना पड़ रहा है। मुझे भी एक नए फॉर्मेट में आपके बीच आना पड़ रहा है। परीक्षा पे चर्चा का पहला वर्चुअल एडिशन है। समस्या तब होती है जब हम एग्जाम को ही जैसे जीवन के सपनों का अंत मान लेते। दरअसल एग्जाम जीवन को घड़ने का एक अवसर है। ये राय मैं पीएम के रूप में नहीं दे रहा हूँ, लेकिन एक दोस्त के रूप में बताता हूँ। आपकी सोच, मेरी सोच, आपके इरादे, मेरे इरादे, हम साथी हैं। मेरे दोस्त क्या कहेंगे, मम्मी पापा क्या बोलेंगे, वो तनाव कभी कभी बोझ बन जाता है। देखिए दोस्तों, खाली समय इसको खाली मत समझिए, ये खजाना है, खजाना। अच्छी किताब, अच्छी मूवी, अच्छी कहानियाँ, अच्छी कविताएं, अच्छे मुहावरे या अच्छे अनुभव, ये सब एक प्रकार से ट्रेनिंग के ही टूल्स हैं। ये परीक्षा पे चर्चा है, लेकिन सिर्फ परीक्षा की ही चर्चा नहीं।
Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank has said that the Pariksha Pe Charcha program will help students to overcome exam stress and boost up their morale. He said this is the first time when students from 81 foreign countries have also participated in the creative writing contest.
लगभग 14 लाख छात्रों ने हिस्सा लिया, जिसमें कुछ अभिभावक भी हैं और कुछ अध्यापकगण भी हैं। ये भी हमारे लिए बहुत खुशी का विषय है कि दुनिया के लगभग 81 देशों के बच्चे प्रधानमंत्री जी के इस प्रेरक कार्यक्रम से सीधे जुड़े हैं और तनाव रहित परीक्षा कैसे दी जा सकती है, प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो अद्भुत हमको मार्गदर्शन मिलता है, जो परीक्षाओं में हमारे लिए संजीवनी का काम करता है। मैं समझता हूं कि ये परीक्षा पे चर्चा का जो चौथा संस्करण है, जो दुनिया में अद्भुत है, अभिनव है।
Pariksha Pe Charcha is a part of a larger initiative, Exam Warrior, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to create a stress-free atmosphere for youngsters. AIR correspondent reports that this is a much-awaited annual event where the Prime Minister will hold a brainstorming session with the school students, teachers and parents. During the event, the Prime Minister will respond to questions related to exam stress. President Ramana Kovind has appointed Justice N.V. Ramana as the 48th Chief Justice of India, accepting the recommendation made by the outgoing CJI S.A. Bobre. Justice Ramana will have a term till August 26 next year. Before his elevation to the Supreme Court on February 17, 2014, Justice Ramana was the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court. He was born in an agricultural family in Andhra Pradesh.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov held delegation-level talks in Delhi today. In a joint press briefing after the talks, Dr. Jaishankar said much of the discussions today covered the preparations for Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit for the annual summit later this year. He said bilateral cooperation remains energetic and forward-looking. He said they talked about long-standing partnership in nuclear, space and defense sectors.
We talked about long-standing partnership in nuclear, space and defense sectors. We assessed positively our economic cooperation, noting the new opportunities in Russian Far East. We spoke of connectivity, including the International North-South Transport Corridor and the Chennai-Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor. Our rapidly expanding energy cooperation that now includes long-term commitments was also on the agenda.
Dr. Jaishankar appreciated Russian support for India's Gaganyaan program. The Russian foreign minister said they discussed prospective and additional manufacturing of Russian military equipment in India within the concept Made in India. Replying to a query, Mr. Lavrov said Russia is not planning to sign a military alliance with China. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has emphasized the need to maintain civility of words and decency of language in public discourse and said that it is necessary for a healthy and strong democracy. He was addressing the concluding ceremony of the 25-day-long ceremonial Dandi March organized as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav in the historic coastal village Dandi in South Gujarat. He asked the people to take inspiration from Mahatma Gandhi, who always used polite and respectful language even for his opponents.
उनकी अहिंसा सिर्फ शारीरिक हिंसा तक ही सीमित नहीं थी, बल्कि वचन और विचारों में भी अहिंसा होना आवश्यक था। ये आज भी बहुत जरूरी है। हम लोग आपस में एक दूसरे के बारे में आलोचना करते हुए या उल्लेख करते हुए प्रेम पूर्वक, क्योंकि हमारा सब लोग भारत का नागरिक है, भाई और बहन है। हम राजनीति में एक दूसरे को प्रतिद्वंदी हो सकती है, मगर शत्रु नहीं है। We have to respect, one, the people's mandate.
Mr. Naidu said Amrit Mahotsav should herald a reawakening of a resurgent and Atmanirbhar India. Emphasizing upon the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, he highlighted that India, while conducting the largest vaccination drive in the world, is also supplying vaccines to a number of countries across the world. Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, a 75-week-long celebration to commemorate 75 years of India's independence, was flagged off by Prime Minister Narendra Modi from Sabarmati Ashram on 12th of March. The Vice President said that it is a festival that encourages us to rediscover our hidden strengths and prompts us to take sincere, synergistic action to regain our rightful place. More from our Ahmedabad correspondent.
After reaching historic coastal town Dandi this morning, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu first visited the Prerna Mandir and paid homage to the Mahatma Gandhi. He also interacted with the foot marchers who participated in the ceremonial march from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. Vice President also visited Saifi Villa, where Gandhiji had spent a night on 4th April 1930. He also visited National Salt Satyagraha Memorial at Dandi. He emphasized the need to create such memorials for all freedom fighters to inspire the young generation to follow their ideals. Yogesh Pandya, Air News, Ahmedabad.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. National capital Delhi is likely to have partly cloudy sky. Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata will have mainly clear sky. Srinagar will have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. Temperature will hover between 7 and 17 degrees Celsius. Jammu will have partly cloudy sky, becoming generally cloudy towards afternoon or evening or night. Leh will witness generally cloudy sky. Gilgit will have generally cloudy sky with light rain. Muzaffarabad will have thunderstorm with rain. The 14th edition of the Indian Premier League IPL 2021 is all set to begin on the 9th of April. The opening match will be played between the defending champion Mumbai Indians against Royal Challengers Bangalore in Chennai. The final match will be played on 30th May in Ahmedabad. Earlier, the BCCI announced the schedule for this edition on the 7th of March. The matches will be played at 6 venues across the country in Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Kolkata and Bengaluru. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. 70% voting recorded in single-phase assembly elections in Kerala, over 63% in Tamil Nadu and around 78% in Puducherry. West Bengal registers 78% in third phase polling and Assam 79% in third and final phase. Government says India is still among the lowest in terms of COVID cases or deaths per million population globally. Centre asks its employees aged 45 years and above to get vaccinated to contain the spread of COVID-19. Government urges TV channels to generate greater awareness on the message of Dawai Bhi, Kadhai Bhi. Night curfew imposed in Delhi till the 30th of April in view of rising corona cases. Chandigarh administration also announces night curfew from tomorrow. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges BJP workers to counter false narratives on farm laws, CAA and labour laws. Prime Minister to interact with students, teachers and parents during Pariksha Pe Charcha tomorrow. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar holds talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Delhi. And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu says Amrit Mahotsav should herald reawakening of a resurgent and Atmanirbhar India. And with that we end the evening news. Good night.